Have you ever stopped to think about what really shapes the way we talk? I mean, we usually point to things like history or migration, right? But what if I told you one of the biggest forces shaping human language is the weather? Yeah, it sounds a little out there, I know, but we're about to dive into this incredible puzzle that connects something as simple as rain to the very words we speak. So, get this. This is the central mystery we're tackling today. If you were to travel across West Africa, all the way from Senegal to Cameroon, you'd be walking through one of the most linguistically packed places on the entire planet. How on earth is that possible? I mean, we are talking about more than 700 different, distinct languages. And many of them are as different from each other as English is from, say, Mandarin Chinese. It's just this staggering amount of diversity in one region, and honestly, it's had linguists scratching their heads for decades. All right, so let's really dig into this puzzle. To even start to wrap our heads around this, we've got to look at where these language hotspots are. Now, you might think, oh, well, it's probably mountains, right? Like in Papua New Guinea, where giant mountain ranges isolate communities and let languages develop on their own. But here's the thing, West Africa doesn't really have those same massive barriers. So if it's not the usual geographic suspects, what in the world is going on here? Well, the first big breakthrough came from an Oxford anthropologist named Daniel Nettle. He decided to look at this whole problem from a completely different angle. He started hunting for a pattern, but in a place no one had really thought to look before. For the very first time, someone took a language map, one showing where all these different languages are spoken, and literally laid it right on top of an ecological map of the very same area. Nettle just wanted to see if there was some pattern in the environment itself that lined up with the pattern of languages. And wow, did he find one. What he found was just this shockingly clear connection. Down in the super rainy southern part of West Africa, the language density is through the roof. But as you move north into the drier, more arid regions, it just plummets. It was this direct, undeniable link. But the question was, what did it mean? And I mean, the difference is just staggering. In the south, where you get rain pretty much all year long, you can find up to 80 languages all crammed into one area. But go north, where it might only rain for less than 4 months a year, and that number drops to as few as 3. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Well, maybe there are just way more people living in the rainy south. And that's a great question, but Nettle checked. Turns out some of the most populated areas, like northern Nigeria, are actually dominated by just one single language, Hausa. So, no, it's not just about how many people there are. Something else is at play. And this, right here, brings us to the core theory. Nettle came up with this pretty radical idea that the environment itself, and specifically how reliable your food supply is, directly shapes the size of your social networks, and because of that, it shapes your language. The whole theory really hangs on this one simple concept. Nettle himself put it perfectly. He said, if you have abundant rainfall year-round, then you can pretty much produce all the food you need. Think about that. When your environment just gives you everything you need, you don't really have to rely on the huge network of people to survive. So here's the logic. Constant rain means you can grow food all the time. That food security means small groups of people can be totally self-sufficient. They can stay in one place, feed themselves, and they really don't need much contact with anyone else. So over generations, their own unique way of talking just naturally evolves into its own separate language. But then you have the flip side. Up in the dry north, where the rain is only seasonal, things are risky. Crop failures, famine, those are constant threats. So to survive, you absolutely have to build a huge social network. You need to be able to trade with people, ask for help, maybe even move to a different area. And to do all that, you need a common language that everyone in that big network can understand. Okay, so that's the theory. Let's look at how this actually plays out on the ground, because it gets even more fascinating when you look at the specific crops people are growing in these different areas. Just look at the two completely different ways of life this creates. Down in the rainy south, people grow yams and cassava. These are super reliable year-round crops. They can support small, independent communities. But up in the arid north, they're growing seasonal grains like millet. Bad harvests are a real danger, so trade and communication aren't just a nice-to-have, they're essential for survival. It's a perfect link between the ecology, the society, and the language. But here's the thing. This incredible linguistic world, which was forged over thousands of years by the climate, it's now facing a brand new and incredibly powerful force, the modern global economy. And this prediction from Nettle is, well, it's really sobering. The very conditions that allowed for all this diversity to flourish are
basically being rewritten. That need for small, self-sufficient groups is just fading away. And why is that? Because today, the most important resource isn't necessarily a good yam harvest. It's access to the modern economy. And the key that unlocks that access is a big, dominant language. If you speak Hausa, for example, you can plug into television, currency, modern medicine, all these things that a small local language just can't connect you to. Think about this. As of right now, Nigeria is home to 430 distinct languages. It's this beautiful, complex tapestry of human culture that's been woven over millennia. But Nettle's prediction is that in just 200 years, that number could be as low as 40. That's a loss of nearly 90%. This huge shift from an ecology based on rain to an economy based on global trade is causing one of the fastest language extinction events in all of human history. And that just leaves us with this final, really important question. When a language vanishes, it's not just words that disappear. It's an entire way of seeing the world. It's a body of knowledge, a history, a culture. The very ecology that created this incredible world of words is changing, and that world itself might soon be gone. So what does it really mean for all of us when so many of those voices fall silent?